Welcome back to the segment that's affectionately called Parks Fermé, as Ian Parks, with his boots on the ground at the Formula One circuits of the globe, joins me to talk about all of the action that has been and is coming up. And of course, with the Miami Grand Prix taking place later on today, we can reflect on qualifying and all the stories that are flying around Miami Beach right now, which is where you are, Ian. And I'm not going to lie, I'm very jealous to see the beach, the sun and the palm trees in the background, mate. How is Miami treating you?
Miami's treating me really lovely today, Ollie. Yes, Saturday, obviously, I was actually on the beach to do this video, shoot this video with you. Today, I've just stepped a little bit off it. We got Ocean Drive just beyond the camera view here. And over this side, as you can see, we got some beach volleyball players. And just the other side of the venue over there, we actually got we got South Beach itself. Get it right myself here, mate. Maybe having a few problems, but all good. The great weather. There is a 40% chance of rain, but to be honest, it's been pretty much like that across the entire Grand Prix weekend because given the heat and the humidity here, you just never know when something might roll in. Fingers crossed we don't get that rain because as we are going to discuss in this segment, there are track concerns.
Yeah, there are plenty of track concerns and the FIA has a real safety issue with the Miami Grand Prix at the moment. Let's talk quickly about the off-track issues as well that the FIA has with safety at the moment, because this on-running saga about jewellery, Lewis Hamilton and the FIA looks like it's going to continue for a fair bit of time, Ian.
Well, given Lewis's comments post-qualifying last night, he was asked whether he would remove the nose stud, which he says is irremovable. From what I understand, requires minor surgery to actually have taken out. He says no, he's not going to do it. Just to give people a little bit of background very quickly, the FIA this season has decided to uphold a regulation that has long been in the rule book, stating that no jewelry is allowed to be worn by any driver whilst they are on track. Lewis, as we know, is someone that is adorned with piercings. He revealed in the driver's press conference on Friday that he has not only those in his ears and the one in his nose, but he also has another one on his person. He didn't quite go into specific detail as to where that was, but we can have a good guess. So it's like he was going to go into practice really putting his foot down and saying, no, guys, I've been racing for 16 years. I'm not going to do this. Obviously, discussions took place between that press conference on Friday morning and between the first practice session. And he took to the track with nearly all of his piercings removed, with the exception of the nose stud and with the exception, from what we understand, of that bodily piercing. And it now transpires that he will not remove that nose piercing, as he stated last night. Now, from what I've been able to gather across the course of the weekend, is that the punishment that the FIA will impose on any driver that continues to defy this regulation is a financial one. So the first penalty will be £52,000, I think it is, going up and up and up to escalating to a maximum of £215,000. So it's up to Lewis. Does he want to pay these fines? We know he's certainly got the money. It's a lot of money, quite naturally. But he believes, he's been racing for 16 years. No one's ever pulled him up across his 200, 300 odd Grand Prix. And he wants to continue racing because, as far as he's concerned, it kind of impinges on his liberties as he sees it. He's a grown person. He understands the safety implications quite naturally. But he also feels that he's been racing this way for so long. Why can't I continue to do it? Let me sign a waiver, was one of his comments. Absolving the FIA, absolving any medical team of all responsibility. This is on me. Let me do what I want to do.
Yeah, I think that's a difficult spot for the FIA to be in. It's just peculiar that they're reinforcing this regulation that hasn't been enforced for a long period of time. But it is the rules, Ian, at the end of the day. That's the other side of the argument, away from Hamilton's requests for perhaps some sort of waiver that he could sign. The FIA are likely going to say, well, this is just in the regulations. It's been there for a while, and we're now deciding to enforce it to the full extent of the law, so to speak.
Yeah, as you say, it's been in for many, many years. And with effectively a new FIA regime, we have Mohammed Ben Sulayem, the new president that came in December. We've got new race directors in Neil Swittick and Eduardo Freitas. And it seems to me that the FIA has now decided to take this stance, be very firm. It's not just the jewelry, of course, it's to do with the underwear and the positioning of the underwear with regards to the flame retardant clothing and overalls that the drivers have on them. They're making sure that the underwear is, you either don't wear any of your own personal underwear or you wear it in the correct position outside of the flame retardant overall underneath. And I'm hoping a police car has just pulled up in front of me, and I'm hoping he's not about to tell me I'm in the wrong place. No, it's okay. I'll just show you there. A little bit of light-hearted entertainment, as I wasn't quite sure if I stood where I'm stood.
They're very strict about Parc Fermé regulations, Ian, so it doesn't surprise me that they would be in this segment.
Exactly. So as we were just discussing there, Ollie, so they've decided to, this new regime, it's come in. They want to impose the regulations as they believe they should be adhered to. And that means clamping down on every little minor thing that they feel the drivers should be doing. And it's also about teaching the up-and-coming drivers a lesson, because they believe if they impose things right at the top, then that will filter down. And if the drivers that all these young up-and-coming ones are looking up to, such as Lewis, such as Sebastian Vettel, and I'll just get on to Seb in 1 second, then that will filter down to those coming through. The right lessons being taught. Now, I did tweet a picture pre-practice on Friday. Seb decided he would, with a little bit of fun, a little bit of lightheartedness, a little bit of tongue-in-cheek, but also I felt that it was a little bit disrespectful to the FIA, where he was in the pit lane and he wore a pair of underpants outside of his race suit. As I say, it was lighthearted. We get that, little bit of fun, but there was also, to my mind, a little bit of disrespect there as well, because the FIA, okay, they're clamping down on these regulations that have been there for quite some time, but I just felt Seb, given his experience and given he's someone that many people look up to, I just felt he just could have played that a little bit more clever.
And it's interesting as well, everybody asks for the strict regulations to be in place around things like, I don't know, safety cars after what happened last year. So the FIA is saying, right, if we're being strict with all the regulations, we'll be strict with all of the regulations. Let's talk about the action on track, because there is a safety issue as well, of course, with this Miami Grand Prix circuit. And it's been brought up by Esteban Ocon after his tussle with the barriers, or should I say the concrete wall and lack of Tech Pro barriers that adorn the circuit. The same place where Carlos Sainz had his spin on Friday as well. It destroyed the chassis of the Alpine, which meant that Ocon wasn't able to participate in qualifying yesterday after he crashed out in FP3. And he's saying that the FIA has ignored his request and the discussion that he and Carlos Sainz have had with the FIA to put a Tech Pro barrier in that part of the circuit. If the FIA cares about safety, this should really be a priority this weekend, no?
This is the great irony. We've just been discussing about jewelry and underwear. To not minor, but slightly inconsequential things when you consider that the ultimate safety concerns should be about everything on track. We've got this part of the circuit and it's tight, it's twisty, and specifically designed to potentially induce a mistake. And we've had two very costly ones, as you just mentioned there, for both Carlos Sainz and Esteban Ocon. That was a 51G impact that Esteban had in final practice on Saturday. And it was in third gear. So that's huge, 51G at that speed against that concrete wall. And Carlos Sainz mentioned it following his crash on Friday, brought it up in the driver's briefing, and they turned around and said, no, we're not going to install a Tech Pro there. Now we've had this second incident, and you'd really hope that when we get to the circuit today, that something might have been done. And if they don't do it this weekend, then please, please, please do it for next year's race. Learn the lessons, listen to what the drivers are telling you. Forget all this nonsense about jewelry and underwear. This is primary safety concern territory that we are now in. And this is This is really what the FIA should be listening to and worrying about, not whether somebody's got a nose stud or they've got a pair of underpants in the wrong place.
Ian, what have you made of the circuit as a whole? There's been a lot of discussion, of course, from Mercedes about the bumps that we heard on Friday. There's been discussion about how difficult it is if you're offline. There's a lot of dust on the track that makes it a little slippery. There's a potential of rain as well today in this really tight twisting section where we've seen a couple of incidents, and Lewis Hamilton has been critical of that this weekend as well. What have you made of it from a visual standpoint and from a racing standpoint, as Miami kind of not got it right just yet, their first run at this?
You know what, Ali, this is the big thing, isn't it? Because as we discussed on Saturday's video, we've had this huge amount of hype around this event, which has been great. F1 has really been embraced by America, and we've come to Miami, a great city, as we know. They've spent $60 million on putting this venue together in and around the Hard Rock Stadium. And as we all know, you can do as much as you want around a circuit. You can provide as much entertainment, treat the fans to everything that they want hospitality-wise. But if you do not get it right on track, then the event as a whole will fall flat. And unfortunately, today, there is the potential for the race to fall flat. And aside from obviously the concerns about safety in that particular part of the twisty circuit we've just been talking about, the real concern from the driver's perspective is the racetrack itself. Now, pre-race, there was a big event for the media and a big show round, you might call it, giving a tour of the whole venue. And one of the big points that was made is we've created this wonderful track. We've sourced it from local materials. We've done something a little bit different with the surface, away from the norm that other new venues have done. And unfortunately, from the standpoint that we're getting from what the drivers are saying post-qualifying, is that it appears to have fallen flat because, as you've rightly pointed out, offline, it's not great. So we've got these great passing opportunities on this circuit, and well done for at least putting those in place and giving the drivers the chance to do some overtakes. But it looks like we might be in for a case of follow my leader in many respects, because the drivers are so concerned about going offline, the fact that it is very slippery in nature, this circuit, that they're going to struggle or think twice about making a move into one of those passing places. And if we do get this flat race with very little overtaking, then the American public, both those watching at the circuit that have paid top dollar for their tickets and those watching on prime time TV across the states today, are going to say, hold on, we've embraced Formula One and then you provide us with this. Fingers crossed that isn't the case and we do get a good action-packed race, but the early assessment from the drivers is it might not be that way.
Yeah, the bumpy circuit falling flat. There's a great irony in that, I'm sure, with this Miami Grand Prix. One thing the Americans have got right is Danica Patrick's post-qualifying interviews. I think they were the best that I've heard in a long time as well, and long may that continue. Ian, thank you so much for joining us from Miami Beach. Of course, the Ferrari front row lockout. Do you see it being a Ferrari win, yes or no?
Well, Charles has already said that he feels that they're going to have trouble holding back the Red Bulls because he feels they've got greater pace, greater race pace. So given the fact it's an all Ferrari front row and then it's an all Red Bull second row, hopefully we do get some action between those four cars. Fingers crossed, because that's what this event, given all the hype that we've just discussed, really needs. Great on-track racing to make this a truly great spectacle all across the weekend, not just the build-up.
You can follow all of the action from Sunday's race later on today, of course, on GPFans.com, GPFans Global on Twitter and Instagram, and we'll be breaking it down as well on the GPFans Stewards Room podcast. Ian, take care. Enjoy the last few days in Miami with a bit of sunshine, and we'll talk to you very soon indeed. Thanks so much.
Cheers, Ali. Take care, everyone.